Welcome to another edition of the Resilient Living Podcast, a show dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. All right, this is episode 45, and I wanted to talk today about establishing your goals. A lot of people, I don't think, have goals. They don't have we talked about having a purpose in your life. I think a lot of people don't have the goals set up to where they know exactly what it is that what they want. I think it's probably the biggest thing. I always ask people, what do you want? What do you, especially people who are down and out, what do you want? And they're just kind of, I don't know. So that was the inspiration for today's show of establishing your goals in life. I guess I should call it, instead of just establishing your goals. But yeah, I've got, when the table gets turned around, there's all kinds of things that I want to do. I feel like I don't have enough time in life and I want to just keep going. So I wanted to talk about inspire you guys to find your goals if you don't know what they are. And if you do have your goals, let's talk about how you can get those goals to happen. And I just go off my personal experience in my life. Everybody's life is different. I don't claim to have all the answers to everything here. But I just like to inspire you guys off what I've done in my life. So let's go ahead and get into that. First thing I have on my notes is to daydream and write them down. I daydream all the time, guys. That's how I come up with concepts as far as like my gardening techniques, business. I sit there and sort of daydream. One of my favorite things to do is just to sit there and think. And I've done this probably my whole entire life. And I heard that Albert Einstein says one of his most powerful experiments was mind experiments. And that's how he figured out the speed of light. He says in time, if he was able to catch up with the spearhead of time, time would stand still. If he's able to look at it, he imagined himself traveling, chasing it. And that's how he came up with this brilliance. Now, I don't have the brilliance that Albert Einstein has. There's no questions about that. But a lot of the things I looked at in my business, how do I make my business better? And I sort of like daydream. I just sit there and I looked and I would think of things. What was the customer's reaction when I went to sell a job? What were the reactions when I introduced new things? I start to daydream. Well, if I was a customer, imagine using your imagination, right? Creative visualization. And I like to call it daydreaming. But you need to write these things down. You need to write all these ideas down so that you can figure out, what you need to do, how to proceed. Otherwise, a lot of people's goals, I think, aren't going to happen. And I think if you need to find your goals, daydream about what makes you happy. Imagine yourself doing it. And imagine yourself and try to think of all the worst things. Now, this one's you'd think is a negative, but every time I have a dream or a goal of something, I look and go, what are all the obstacles? And let me just make stuff up. Let me ask people, the more negative, the better. How could you see where this whole thing's going to screw up and go sideways? And then I work on those things and I think to myself, do I want to go through all that work and trouble to do these things? For instance, right now, I have a manufacturing idea of having people work from home and creating a product for me that I could sell online. Well, what happens if those people screw up the product? What if they keep the product? What are all the legalities that I have to deal with living, especially here in sunny side California? And I daydream about that and figure, what are all the obstacles? So I sit there and I write all of these down. You can only hold so much capacity in your mind to remember everything. One thing I like to do is as soon as I come up with a great idea or something, I brainstorm, all the time. I pull out the notes on my phone and I write down. I'll put down a subject, just like I do with this podcast show. I think of stuff that's inspiring, like today's show, and then as the day goes by, or as I'm laying in bed at night, or just doing creative thinking, daydreaming, I start to think, what would be helpful to people? What would people want to hear? How can I be of service? I start jotting them all down. And I have tons and tons of notes. So daydream and write them down to find your goals or to improve your goals. And take that reality check. So if you've got something that you want to do, you need to know, are you good enough to do those type of things? Or is that something that you really want? Let me give you guys for instance, in community. I looked many years ago and said, I wonder if I started an intentional community, an eco-village where people could live together, maybe in a big old house or maybe separate. Buy some land and things like that. And one of the things I found was that I still would love to do that one of these days. Join one, maybe possibly, to see if I like it. But the word is on the internet street is that the magic number is 2 years. A lot of people who think that they want to, their goal is to live free and off the land and in a community, they find that not so much. And maybe they like their privacy a lot more, or they want to do things on their own. They're not built, they just don't like it. But you never know until you actually try. So I look at this, take a reality check on anything, whether you're starting a new business, you want to go move someplace, take a good reality check, do some negative daydreaming to help you out to get that reality off the ground. I think a lot of people don't do enough of that, and that's why we have a lot of failures. Now, it's in my opinion that failure is actually your friend, because that's how you find out that you didn't like something, or that maybe you need to work harder, or maybe, everything in life takes work. But maybe you didn't take a good reality check, and now you're looking going, now I've checked it. Now I've been doing it, and I don't think I want to do it so much. I think I want to do something completely different. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong, and I think that's completely healthy. I think in our society, what I try to instill in my children is that failure is your friend, that you should try things. But there's times that we try things and we could actually hurt ourselves. I've done many moves in my life. I've probably moved like 40 times. I've never stayed put in a city. The longest time I've ever spent time in a city in one place was probably for about 12 years. And realistically, guys, I got bored. That town, I'm like, I would rather eat cow dung than go back to that town. So start focusing, now that we got that established, just start focusing on how you can instead of why you can't. I think that on that negative part, it can be an off balance where people would look and go, well, I'm just not talented enough. I can't. Well, maybe you should start improving your talents. Maybe you should start studying. Maybe you should start practicing, whatever it is that you want to do to establish those goals. I think just the fact of figuring out how you can get your goals going is something, something that's a hurdle that you can get over. Problem solving skills, right? You can find out what it is that you want. What are your goals in life? So yeah, focus on how you can. I think there's always obstacles. I go through them all the time. Being an entrepreneur, there was always fires, dangers. There's the insanity of not knowing whether things are going to collapse. This is 2021 here. Towards the end here in December, or towards the beginning week of December, and we got supply chain shortages. I got all kinds of things. I don't even know if I'm going to have a job. If they don't have my materials for me, I don't know if I'm going to be able to work to make money. But I focus on, well, what else can I do? I've made myself, I've practiced a lot of different professions. I know how to paint, I know how to fix plumbing, and I can do a handyman work. There's all kinds of things that I can do because I started focusing, earlier in my life. What are all the new things that I can introduce? What are things that I like? I tried many, many, many things. I'm open to everything, and almost everything. But throughout my life, I found out, I really, really like this. I'm surprised that I did. I didn't think I was going to like it that much. Some things, not so much. So, but the trick is to start focusing on how you can solve these problems. And that's why I think the mindset is very, very important. The next thing is sequence of events to get you there. Once you've problem solved and you figured out, and you've gone through the whole thing, you're like, I think I found my goal. I took a good reality check. I started thinking about how I can instead of why I can't. I can't say that one enough. So many people are prohibiting themselves. They're blocking themselves by not problem solving. But once you got that all done, there's a sequence of events that needs to happen to get you there. For instance, I think a lot, like for me, I live a very free life. I've chosen to live minimalistic. I only buy what's essential in my life mostly. I don't overspend. I act way below my wage. I've saved emergency funds. So it gives me freedom to go out there and try new things without getting hurt. And I know that that's one of the sequence of events that stops a lot of people. A lot of people are too busy. A lot of people don't have the time, they say. They don't have the money. So when you live a simple life like I do, that's one of the biggest sequence of events that I needed to procure in my life, to practice, to get established, have plenty of emergency funds and things like that to go, now I have play money that I can mess around with my goals or, new businesses or whatever it is that I want to do, or simply just take time off. But I had to go through all those sequence of events. You need to think for yourself what those are. Now, a lot of people, they say, you should just jump in. Just jump in, man, follow your passions, or should you taper? That's a question I don't know what your situation is. I think that if you feel safely that you can just jump in and try to get that goal going without hurting yourself, you should just jump in, because there's a lot of analysis paralysis that goes on, where people just wait and find all these reasons and, but I prefer really the tapering kind of thing. When I started doing this podcast, I wondered, can I come up with content? Can I come up with enough, to do 5 days a week? And sometimes it's a struggle. And sometimes I ask myself, do I even really want to do this? What I keep finding myself is I have thoughts in my head all the time, and I find new things that I just want to talk about. So yeah, I'm tapering in. I would like to start a podcast business, but I'm kind of tapering in right now, and I'm just trying to see, putting my land legs out there, dipping my feet in the water to see if there's any response. So one of the things I do as well is close all loose ends. I think a lot of people have loose ends everywhere, meaning credit that they owe, they're in debt, they have all kinds of different situations in life that are blocking them. And the biggest one, I think, is that when you're trying to daydream about your goals or trying to work on your goals, is when you have all of these loose ends everywhere, where it frustrates you, causes stress, and you can't really even get a sight on your goals because you're too preoccupied with all these things, these loose ends. Bills that you have to pay, automate the bills, put them on auto pay. You don't have enough money in your bank? Start with that. Start saving some money. Start getting all the sequence of events that need to happen, and close all of those loose ends in your life so that you can zero in for at least an hour, a good amount of time, and try to figure out and plan and design your life or your goals to get them off the ground. I can't say the loose end thing enough. And planning is everything. When I sit down and I told you about the legalities. I'm going to start this garden business, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. There's much planning that needs to be involved for your goals, right? So, like for me, I looked at it and I said, well, what if I don't like, the manual labor of building these boxes, these crate things, these baskets for selling my biodegradable container gardening business is basically what it is. What if I outsource that to people? What if they keep the materials, as I said? What if I find that this whole thing's just a headache and, I don't like, but the demand is there? What if I tapered into this thing, and next thing you know, a lot of people are saying, we want to buy it. I've got orders of hundreds of thousands of these, orders going on. I can simply sell the business. So there's a lot of planning and everything that I think is very important to do, whatever goal it is that you have. Mine happens to be, starting some new businesses, so I can taper out of construction. And the one thing I find is everything always evolves around money. I can't say this one enough as well. I think that there's a lot of people out there that think money's evil, that money's maybe not that important, but yet it's what sustains life on the planet for the majority of us. Unless you're living out in the jungle, or the woods or something, and you're completely making, wearing leather diapers and stuff like that, leather garments to cover your genitalia, and you're fashioning bows and arrows and stuff, you're going to need money. You're going to need money to do things. So that's definitely a big hurdle, I think. You guys need to establish, like I said, emergency funds and things like that. Get rid of all the loose ends and plan to save money. I've talked about budgeting on this show. You're going to have to come up with a plan. Once you establish your goals, you're going to have to come up with a financial plan. If you're not there yet, that's going to hurt you. If you're spending more time, which happens to me sometimes, where I'm spending more time on this podcast than I am my own work, and I forget my materials. I actually did that this week. That was not very good planning. What I recommend is that you do like I do, is write down every single thing that you need for your job and make yourself a list so you don't have to think about it. I planned this whole thing out. I planned the job, and I also planned on this day, I'm going to record my show on my way home. If I happen to have a free moment, I'm going to keep everything set up. I have all my microphones and things. Forgive the background noise. This is my work commute, by the way. That's my truck. But yeah, I've got all my microphones and everything all set up. I came up with a plan. That way I can keep recording these shows successfully. And then the last note I have here is low overhead. Simple living always wins. Always. I can't say this one enough as well, is that because of the simple life that I live, some people may be listening to me going, oh, you sure make it sound easy. Well, I've simplified my life. And it's not easy. It's a lot of work. I work on many, many things. But that simple life, whenever I this whole supply chain shortage, there may be coming like a crash that's happening. The inflation of everything, the price of food and everything going up is minimally affecting me because I had a plan and because I live simple. It gives me to be able to find a lot of goals, which I have a lot as I started out with. It gives me the freedom to go do those type of things and experiment and explore, give it a shot. And if I fail, because of my simple life, I always have that, I'm able to fall back. My overhead is super, super low. My simple life, I don't need a lot of things. I don't have a lot of things that I have to maintain. So it gives me that time in my life to be able to daydream, to bring it back home where we first started out with this conversation. All the loose ends are pretty much clipped up. Everything's tied up. Everything's nice and tidy. We've got emergency funds. We've got all the sequence of events and things that we've planned to do to perpetuate these goals of mine. And that's how I do it, guys. I mean, simple living always wins in the end. A simplistic life to where you have the fallback. You have the fall where you don't really have to immerse yourself. I think a lot of people having that large home and all of these things, all these possessions that they have, those things end up owning you. And that's why you're not able to establish your goals, maybe. Possibly. This is all just one guy's opinion. But I notice a lot of people out there, as I said, who, when I ask them, especially when they're down and out, and they just really have no idea what they want. They have no goals. And I think life is pretty boring, and life's scary without having goals. And it's scary to be scared, I think. As I said, failure is your friend. You should be able to go out there and try new things. And many of the things that you thought were your goals, you'll probably find that not so much. I found a lot of them in my life, but you never know until you try, guys. So I guess the message today is to simplify your life, down to the minimal amount of things, close all those loose ends, daydream about what it is that you want, establish those things, take that reality check, and figure out what you need to do in order to get there, and make sure that you don't hurt yourself. Come up with that plan, that financial plan, and get those goals established and start living life. So I hope that inspired you guys, the show, to do something with this and start going out there and making something happen for yourself, whatever it is. I always tell my kids, I believe in you, but you got to believe in you. It's not enough for me to believe in you. You got to believe in yourself. So I'll leave you guys with that. And I hope you guys liked the show. If you did, subscribe, like, and all that kind of stuff I'm supposed to say. And with that, go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire and keep it up, my friends.